Commander Sarah Chen pressed her face against the cold metal viewport of the mining station. Far below, the asteroid field stretched endlessly into space, chunks of rock and ice tumbling slowly in the void. She had been stationed on mining platform, Delta 7, for 8 months now, overseeing the extraction operations that kept Earth's colonies supplied with rare minerals. The work was routine, boring even. Each day brought the same tasks: monitor the automated miners, check safety protocols, file reports with Earth Command. Sarah often wondered if she would spend her entire career watching robots dig holes in rocks. She had joined the Space Corps dreaming of exploration and adventure, not babysitting machines in the middle of nowhere. That morning started like any other. Sarah completed her usual rounds, checking the mining equipment and reviewing production reports. The asteroid field was rich with titanium and rare earth elements, making it valuable enough to warrant a permanent human presence. Most of the galaxy's civilizations relied on automated systems for such work, but humans had always preferred the personal touch. Around midday, while Sarah was reviewing efficiency reports in her office, the station's long-range sensors detected something unusual. A ship was approaching fast, much faster than any normal vessel should travel through an asteroid field. Sarah frowned at the readings on her screen. The craft was small, sleek, and definitely not human in design. Within minutes, the unknown ship crashed into a nearby asteroid with tremendous force. The impact sent shockwaves through the rock, causing several smaller asteroids to shift from their orbits. Sarah watched in shock as debris scattered in all directions. Whatever had hit that asteroid was either dead or soon would be. Standard protocol demanded that Sarah report the incident to Earth Command and wait for instructions. The galaxy was full of alien species, many of them hostile to humans. First contact situations required careful handling by trained diplomats and military personnel, not mining engineers. Sarah knew she should stay put and let the professionals handle whatever had just crashed near her station. But something made her hesitate. The way the ship had been moving suggested the pilot was fleeing from something, not attacking. The craft had been damaged before the crash, trailing plasma and venting atmosphere. Someone inside that wreckage might be dying while she sat safely in her station, following rules and waiting for permission to help. Sarah pulled up the sensor data again, studying the crash site more carefully. The asteroid where the ship had impacted was only 20 minutes away by shuttle. The wreckage showed signs of life support systems still functioning, though barely. Whoever was inside had minutes, maybe an hour at most, before those systems failed completely. Earth Command was 6 hours away by fastest communication. Even if they immediately dispatched a rescue ship, it would take days to reach the asteroid field. By then, any survivors would be long dead. Sarah stared at the blinking red dot on her screen that marked the crash site. She had the tools and equipment to attempt a rescue. Her shuttle was fueled and ready. All she needed was the courage to act. The decision came suddenly without conscious thought. Sarah was already moving toward the equipment lockers, pulling on her emergency vacuum suit and gathering medical supplies. She had trained for emergency rescues during her academy years, though she never expected to use those skills on an alien. But life was life, regardless of what species it came from. As she powered up the shuttle, Sarah's hands shook slightly on the controls. She was about to violate direct orders and potentially make first contact with an unknown alien species. If the creature was hostile, she could be flying toward her death. If it was friendly, she might be starting an interstellar incident by acting without authorization. Either way, her career was probably over. The shuttle launched smoothly from the station's docking bay, its small fusion engine pushing Sarah toward the crash site. As she flew through the asteroid field, dodging chunks of floating rock, she tried to imagine what she might find. Would the alien be humanoid or something completely different? Would it be able to communicate? Would it even want her help? 20 minutes later, Sarah brought her shuttle close to the impact site. The alien ship was embedded deep in the asteroid's surface, its hull cracked and leaking atmosphere. Through the shuttle's powerful lights, she could see that the vessel was beautiful in a strange way, with flowing lines and organic curves that no human engineer would have designed. It looked more grown than built. Sarah maneuvered her shuttle closer, looking for a way to reach the wreckage. The alien ship was buried under tons of rock and twisted metal. Getting inside would require careful cutting with her plasma torch, and she would need to work quickly before the remaining life support systems failed. As she prepared her equipment, Sarah wondered if she was about to save a life or become the first human to die, trying to rescue an alien. The universe was about to find out what humans were really made of. Sarah anchored her shuttle to the asteroid using magnetic clamps and activated the airlock. The vacuum of space greeted her as she stepped outside, her suit's life support systems humming quietly. The crash site was even more devastating up close. The alien ship had hit the asteroid with such force that it created a crater 30 meters wide. Twisted metal and strange crystalline fragments littered the impact zone. Moving carefully across the asteroid's low-gravity surface, Sarah approached the wreckage. Her suit's floodlights illuminated the alien vessel's hull, revealing intricate patterns etched into what looked like a biometallic surface. The ship appeared to be partially alive, with veins of light pulsing weakly beneath its skin. Sarah had never seen anything like it. She found what appeared to be an entry hatch, though it was sealed shut and partially buried under debris. Sarah activated her plasma cutter and began burning through the rocks and twisted metal. The work was slow and dangerous. One wrong move could breach the ship's remaining atmosphere or cause a structural collapse that would crush anyone inside. As she worked, Sarah's mind raced with questions. What kind of being flew ships like this? The vessel's design suggested a species far more advanced than humanity. The biomechanical technology alone was centuries beyond anything Earth had developed. Yet here it was, crashed and vulnerable on a random asteroid. After 40 minutes of careful cutting, Sarah cleared enough debris to access the hatch. The alien door was seamless, with no visible controls or handles. She pressed her gloved hand against its surface, and to her surprise, the portal responded to her touch. Panels of light appeared, displaying symbols she couldn't read, but the meaning was clear enough. The ship was asking for identification. Sarah tried touching different symbol combinations, growing increasingly frustrated as precious minutes ticked away. The life support readings from inside the ship were getting weaker. Finally, in desperation, she placed both hands flat against the door and spoke into her suit's external microphone. "I'm here to help. Please let me in." The door dissolved, not opening like a human hatch, but simply fading away like morning mist. Sarah found herself looking into a chamber filled with soft, blue-green light. The interior was as organic as the exterior, with curved walls that seemed to breathe and pulse with their own rhythm. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows throughout the space. Sarah climbed inside, her boots making soft contact with a floor that felt almost spongy beneath her feet. The ship's atmosphere was still intact but thin. Her sensors detected an oxygen-nitrogen mix that was surprisingly close to Earth normal, though with trace gases her instruments couldn't identify. Following the main corridor deeper into the vessel, Sarah searched for signs of the pilot. The ship's interior was unlike anything in human technology. Instead of traditional controls and displays, the walls themselves seemed to be interfaces, covered with shifting patterns of light that responded to her presence. It was beautiful and alien in ways that made her feel both wonder and unease. She found the pilot in what appeared to be the ship's command center. The being was slumped over what looked like a control interface, unconscious and badly injured. Sarah's first impression was that the creature was remarkably humanoid, though clearly not human. It stood about 7 feet tall with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the ship's lighting. Its features were angular and elegant, with large eyes that remained closed and pointed ears that reminded Sarah of ancient Earth legends. The alien was bleeding from several wounds, its blue blood slowly pooling on the organic deck. Sarah could see burn marks on its body and what appeared to be radiation damage. Whatever had been chasing this being had hurt it badly before the crash finished the job. Sarah activated her medical scanner and ran it over the injured alien. The results were confusing. The creature's biology was carbon-based like humans, but with significant differences in organ structure and biochemistry. Its heart rate was weak but steady, and its brain activity showed signs of consciousness despite its apparent unconsciousness. Working quickly, Sarah applied emergency medical patches to the worst wounds. The alien's body temperature was lower than human normal, but the medical foam would help stabilize its condition. She injected universal antibiotics from her emergency kit, hoping they would work on alien biology. As she worked, the injured being's eyes suddenly opened. They were the most beautiful thing Sarah had ever seen, like looking into pools of liquid starlight. The alien stared at her in obvious confusion and fear, its hand moving weakly toward what looked like a weapon at its side. Sarah raised her hand slowly, trying to appear non-threatening. Through her suit's speakers, she spoke in calm, gentle tones. "Easy there. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm here to help." The alien studied her for a long moment, its strange eyes taking in her human features and equipment. Sarah could see intelligence behind those eyes, along with pain and confusion. The being was clearly trying to understand what she was and why she was helping. Finally, the alien spoke, its voice musical and strange, even through the universal translator protocols built into Sarah's suit. The words came through as heavily accented but understandable English. "You are human?" Sarah nodded carefully. "Yes, I'm Commander Sarah Chen of the Earth Mining Corps. I saw your ship crash and came to help." "You're badly injured." The alien's expression shifted to something like amazement. "Impossible. Humans do not enter the void between stars. Your species lacks the courage for true space travel." Sarah felt a flicker of irritation despite the circumstances. "Well, I'm here, aren't I? And right now, you need medical attention more than I need to prove human courage." For the first time, something that might have been a smile crossed the alien's features. Then its eyes rolled back and it lost consciousness again, leaving Sarah alone with an injured extraterrestrial in a dying ship, wondering what she had gotten herself into. Sarah worked frantically to stabilize the alien's condition. The ship's life support systems were failing rapidly, and she could see frost forming on the organic walls as heat leaked away into space. She had to get the injured being back to her shuttle and then to the mining station's medical bay. The problem was size. The alien was 7 feet tall and appeared to weigh significantly more than a human. Moving an unconscious body that large through the wreckage and across the asteroid's surface would be nearly impossible in her current situation. Sarah studied the ship's layout, looking for any equipment that might help. In what appeared to be a storage area, she found something that looked like a medical transport device. The alien technology was beyond her understanding, but the device's purpose seemed clear enough. Sarah managed to activate it using a combination of touch commands and vocal requests, hoping the ship's systems would respond to her good intentions. The transport platform hummed to life, lifting the unconscious alien with some kind of anti-gravity field. Sarah guided it carefully through the ship's corridors and out through the dissolved hatch. The device worked perfectly in the asteroid's low gravity, allowing her to move her patient across the surface with minimal effort. Getting the alien aboard her shuttle required creative thinking. The rescue compartment was designed for humans, not 7-foot extraterrestrials. Sarah had to reconfigure the emergency medical bay, removing seats and adjusting the life support systems to accommodate different atmospheric requirements. As she worked, the alien regained consciousness again. Its starlight eyes tracked her movements with increasing alertness, studying everything about her shuttle's interior. Sarah could see the being cataloging human technology, probably comparing it to its own advanced systems. "Your ship is very primitive," the alien said, its voice stronger now but still musical and strange. "Yet you crossed the void to reach me. This contradicts everything my people know about humans." Sarah continued adjusting the medical equipment, not looking up from her work. "Maybe your people don't know as much about humans as they think they do. What's your name, by the way? I can't keep thinking of you as the alien." "I am Kethvar of the Nexal Fleet," the being replied. "And you, Sarah Chen of Earth, have just committed an act that will be remembered across the galaxy." "I haven't committed anything except first aid," Sarah said, finally meeting Kethvar's gaze. "Though I am curious about what was chasing you. Your ship was already damaged when it reached our asteroid field." Kethvar's expression grew dark. "The Devourers. They have been hunting my ship for 3 solar cycles across 7 star systems. They do not give up and they do not show mercy. By helping me, you have marked your species for their attention." Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the shuttle's temperature. "What are the Devourers?" "A plague upon the galaxy," Kethvar said. "They consume everything they encounter. Worlds, civilizations, entire star systems disappear when they pass through. The Nexal fleet is all that stands between them and the peaceful species of this region." The shuttle's engines fired, pushing them away from the crash site toward the mining station. Sarah's mind raced as she processed this information. She had stumbled into something far larger than a simple rescue mission. If this alien was telling the truth, her actions might have drawn hostile attention to human space. "How badly are you injured?" Sarah asked, changing the subject to more immediate concerns. My medical scanners show serious damage, but I don't know enough about your biology to be sure. Kethvar attempted to sit up, then immediately laid back down with a pained expression. My ship and I are connected. When it was damaged, I felt every impact. The crash nearly killed us both. Without immediate medical attention, I will die within hours. The mining station has a full medical bay, Sarah said. It's designed for humans, but I can adapt the equipment. The question is whether you trust me enough to let me try. I have no choice but to trust you, Kethvar replied. Though I must warn you, the Devourers will have detected my ship's destruction. They will come to investigate and they will find your station. Your people are not prepared for what approaches. Sarah's hands tightened on the shuttle controls. How long do we have? Perhaps a day, perhaps less. The Devourers are relentless. They will not stop until they have consumed everything in this system. The mining station grew larger in the shuttle's viewport, its lights a welcome sight in the darkness of space. Sarah had left that morning thinking her biggest problem would be filing production reports. Now she was harboring an injured alien warrior and potentially facing an invasion by creatures called the Devourers. As she guided the shuttle into the station's docking bay, Sarah made a decision that would change human history. Instead of following protocol and calling for backup from Earth Command, she would treat the aliens' injuries first and get answers second. If hostile forces were coming, she needed to understand what humanity was facing. Kethvar, she said as the docking clamps engaged, I'm going to help you, but in return I need you to tell me everything about these Devourers. If they're coming for my people, we need to be ready. The alien warrior looked at her with something like respect. Your species is more dangerous than the galaxy realizes. Sarah Chen. The Devourers may discover they have chosen the wrong prey. Sarah powered down the shuttle and began preparing to move her patient to the medical bay. She had no idea that her simple act of compassion was about to introduce humanity to galactic civilization in the most dramatic way possible. The universe was about to learn that humans didn't just rescue the helpless, they fought back against the impossible. The mining station's medical bay had never treated anything more exotic than mining accidents and equipment burns. Sarah found herself improvising wildly as she adapted human medical equipment for alien biology. Kethvar's physiology was similar enough to human that the basic life support systems worked, but different enough that she had to constantly adjust dosages and procedures. Your surgical techniques are crude but effective, Kethvar observed as Sarah sealed another wound with medical foam. My people use bio-integration healing, but your mechanical approach has certain advantages. Thanks for the backhanded compliment, Sarah replied, not looking up from her work. Now tell me about these Devourers. What exactly are we dealing with? Kethvar's expression grew somber. They are not natural creatures. The Devourers were created as weapons during the Infinite War 10,000 years ago. When that conflict ended, they were supposed to be destroyed. Instead, they escaped into the void and have been growing ever since. Sarah paused in her medical work. Growing how? They consume other beings and add their knowledge, their technology, their biological advantages to themselves. Each world they destroy makes them stronger and more dangerous. The Nexal fleet has been fighting them for 3,000 years, trying to contain their spread. And you're losing, Sarah said, reading the truth in Kethvar's eyes. We are dying, the alien admitted. My ship was the last survivor of a fleet of 50 vessels. We held them back from the Kepler colonies for 6 months, but eventually they broke through our lines. I was carrying intelligence about their next target when they caught me. Sarah applied a final medical patch and stepped back to examine her work. Kethvar's injuries were stabilized, though he would need weeks to fully recover. The immediate crisis was over, but a larger one was approaching. What intelligence? She asked. Kethvar struggled to sit up on the medical table. The Devourers are heading for Sol system, Earth. They have learned of your species and decided you represent a threat that must be eliminated. The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. That's impossible. Humans have barely left our own solar system. We're not a threat to anyone. You are wrong, Kethvar said firmly. The Devourers analyze potential threats based on aggression, adaptability, and technological advancement. Humans score dangerously high in all categories. Your species fights constantly among yourselves, yet you survive and grow stronger. You adapt to any environment and turn disadvantages into advantages. Most importantly, you take insane risks that no rational species would attempt. Sarah looked at him in confusion. Like what? Like rescuing unknown aliens from crashed ships in hostile space. Kethvar replied with what might have been humor. No other species in the galaxy would have done what you did today. They would have reported the crash and waited for orders. Only humans have the particular combination of curiosity, compassion, and reckless courage that makes them truly dangerous. Before Sarah could respond, the station's alarm system activated. Red lights flashed throughout the medical bay as the computer announced an incoming transmission from Earth Command. Sarah's stomach dropped as she realized someone had noticed her unauthorized shuttle mission. "Commander Chen," came the stern voice of Admiral Morrison, her direct superior. "You are ordered to explain your recent activities immediately. Our sensors show you launched a shuttle without authorization and failed to report a spacecraft incident in your sector." Sarah looked at Kethvar, who nodded encouragingly. There was no hiding the situation now. She activated the communication system. "Admiral, I encountered a crashed alien vessel and rescued the pilot. The being is currently receiving medical treatment in our facility." A long silence followed. When Admiral Morrison spoke again, his voice was carefully controlled. "Commander, did you just tell me you have made first contact with an extraterrestrial species?" "Yes, sir, I did." "And you took this action without authorization from Earth Command?" Sarah straightened her shoulders. "The pilot was dying, sir. I had minutes to act, not hours to wait for permission." Another pause. "Commander Chen, you are to secure the alien and await the arrival of a diplomatic team. Under no circumstances are you to provide any information about human capabilities or intentions. This is now a matter of galactic security." Kethvar had been listening to the exchange with growing alarm. When the transmission ended, he grabbed Sarah's arm with surprising strength. "You cannot wait for your diplomats," he said urgently. "The Devourers will arrive before any help reaches this station. They move faster than any conventional ship. If you want to save your people, you must warn them now." Sarah felt torn between duty and necessity. Following orders meant waiting for proper authorities to handle the situation. But if Kethvar was right, following orders would also mean letting humanity be caught completely unprepared for an invasion. "How long before they get here?" she asked. Kethvar closed his eyes, seeming to concentrate. "My ship's computer was destroyed, but I can sense their approach. The Devourers leave a disturbance in space-time that my people can detect. They will be here within 18 hours. 18 hours. Not enough time for Earth Command to organize a response even if they believed the threat was real." Sarah made another decision that would change everything. "I'm sending a general alert to all human colonies and military installations," she announced. "If these Devourers are coming, our people deserve a chance to fight back." Kethvar smiled, the expression transforming his alien features. "Now you begin to understand why your species frightens the galaxy. You do not surrender, even when surrender would be logical." Sarah was already at the communication console composing the most important message in human history. She had no idea that her warning would reach not just human space, but would be intercepted by dozens of other civilizations who had been monitoring Earth's transmissions. Within hours, the entire galaxy would know that humanity was about to face the Devourers. And for the first time in 3,000 years, other species began to hope that someone might actually win. Sarah's emergency broadcast spread through human space like wildfire. Within 6 hours, every colony, mining station, and military outpost had received her warning about the approaching Devourers. The response was immediate and typically human. Instead of panic, there was a sudden burst of organized chaos as humanity prepared for war. Admiral Morrison's face appeared on the medical bay's main screen, his expression a mixture of fury and amazement. "Commander Chen, you have created the largest military mobilization in human history based on the word of one alien. I hope you understand the consequences if you're wrong." "I understand the consequences if I'm right and we do nothing," Sarah replied calmly. "Sir, you need to see this." She had spent the last several hours working with Kethvar to access what remained of his ship's computer systems. The alien technology was fascinating, built around biomechanical interfaces that responded to both thought and touch. With Kethvar's help, she had managed to recover fragments of data about the Devourers. The tactical information was terrifying. The Devourers weren't just conquerors. They were a collective intelligence that absorbed everything they encountered. Each world they consumed added to their knowledge and capabilities. They had been growing for 10,000 years, becoming something far beyond their original design. These creatures have destroyed over 300 civilizations. Sarah explained as she transmitted the data to Earth Command. They learn from each conquest, adapting new technologies and strategies. The Nexo fleet has been fighting a holding action for 3 millennia, but they're losing. Admiral Morrison studied the tactical displays with growing alarm. How many ships are we facing? Kethavar answered from the medical table. No one knows the exact number. The Devourers rebuild themselves constantly, converting captured vessels and resources into new attack units. My fleet encountered at least 200 ships, but that was only a scouting force. 200 ships, Morrison repeated slowly. Commander Chen, humanity has exactly 37 combat vessels in active service. How exactly do you propose we fight this enemy? Sarah had been thinking about that question for hours. Human military doctrine was based on fighting other humans, not ancient biomechanical weapons. Traditional tactics would be useless against an enemy that could adapt and learn from each encounter. We don't fight them like a normal enemy, she said. The Devourers expect civilized species to respond with organized military action. They've learned to counter conventional tactics over thousands of years. But humans aren't particularly conventional. On her personal tablet, Sarah had been reviewing reports from across human space. The response to her warning had been extraordinary. Military units were mobilizing, but so were civilian organizations. Mining companies were converting industrial equipment into weapons. Colonists were fortifying settlements with improvised defenses. Even space pirates had offered to join the fight. Sir, look at these reports, Sarah continued, transmitting the data. The mining platform at Ceres has converted their asteroid processing equipment into kinetic bombardment systems. The agricultural colony at New Geneva is using their weather control satellites as weapons platforms. Even the research station at Europa is rigging their experimental drives into bombs. Kethvar watched the tactical displays with growing amazement. This is unprecedented. No civilization in galactic history has ever mobilized so completely or so quickly. Your species approaches warfare like no other. Admiral Morrison was beginning to understand the implications. You're suggesting we fight a guerrilla campaign? I'm suggesting we fight like humans, Sarah replied. The Devourers expect organized resistance from military forces using predictable tactics. They don't expect civilians to turn mining equipment into weapons, or scientists to use research facilities as military assets. They certainly don't expect pirates and criminals to volunteer for suicide missions. The communication system chimed with an incoming priority message. Admiral Morrison accepted the transmission, and suddenly the screen filled with reports from across human space. Colony administrators, military commanders, corporate executives, and even criminal bosses were calling in with offers of support and increasingly creative weapon systems. Admiral, this is Director Walsh from the Titan Research Facility, came one transmission. We've converted our fusion research reactor into a gravity bomb. We can deliver it to any coordinates you specify. Another voice joined in. Morrison, this is Captain Singh of the merchant vessel New Mumbai. We've strapped ramming spikes to the front of our ship and loaded the cargo hold with antimatter charges. Just point us at the enemy. The reports continued for several minutes. Humanity was transforming itself into a weapons platform with ruthless efficiency. Sarah watched Admiral Morrison's expression change from concern to grim satisfaction. Kethvar, the Admiral said, addressing the alien directly. In your professional opinion, how do you think the Devourers will respond to this kind of resistance? The alien warrior considered the question carefully. The Devourers analyze threats based on predictable behavior patterns. They have fought organized militaries for 10,000 years. They have never encountered a species that weaponizes its entire civilization in a matter of hours. This level of chaos and unpredictability will confuse their tactical algorithms. Good, Morrison said. Commander Chen, you've started something that can't be stopped. I hope you're prepared to see it through. Sarah looked at the tactical displays showing human space buzzing with military activity. Ships were moving. Weapons were being built, and millions of humans were preparing for a fight that would determine the survival of their species. I'm prepared, sir. But more importantly, humanity is prepared. The Devourers are about to learn why the galaxy should be afraid of humans. On the medical table, Kethvar smiled with genuine respect. Your species may actually survive this. If you do, the galaxy will never be the same. Sarah checked the chronometer. 12 hours until the Devourers arrived. 12 hours for humanity to prove that compassion and courage could triumph over ancient evil. The rescue of one injured alien had become the catalyst for the greatest battle in human history. The Devourers arrived exactly when Keithabar predicted, emerging from hyperspace like a swarm of mechanical nightmares. Sarah watched the sensor displays in horror as dozens of ships materialized at the edge of the asteroid field. Each vessel was different, cobbled together from the remains of civilizations they had consumed. Some ships showed elegant curves of unknown technologies, while others bristled with weapons that defied classification. "They're beautiful and terrible," Sarah whispered, unable to look away from the screens. Keithvar had insisted on joining her on the station's command deck despite his injuries. The alien warrior studied the enemy formation with professional interest. 17 ships in the advance force. They're being cautious, which means they detected something unusual about the system. "What's unusual about it?" Sarah asked. "You," Keithvar replied simply. "They expected to find a mining station with a few frightened humans. Instead, their sensors are detecting massive energy signatures throughout the asteroid field." "Your people have been busy," Sarah nodded grimly. The past 12 hours had seen the most intensive military preparation in human history. The asteroid field was now a maze of hidden weapons, improvised fortifications, and converted civilian ships. Mining platforms had been turned into artillery batteries. Cargo haulers carried experimental weapons. Even the station's communication array had been modified into a directed energy weapon. The first Devourer ship began moving toward the mining station, its biomechanical hull rippling with predatory intent. Sarah activated the general communication channel. "All human units, this is Mining Station Delta 7. The enemy has arrived. Remember, we don't just fight for ourselves. We fight for every species the Devourers have consumed, and every species they plan to consume. Make them pay for every meter of space." The response was immediate and violent. Hidden weapons platforms throughout the asteroid field opened fire simultaneously. Kinetic projectiles, plasma beams, and converted mining lasers converged on the approaching Devourer ships. The alien vessels' shields flared and buckled under the unexpected assault. "Impossible," Keithvar breathed. "They're taking damage. The Devourers haven't taken significant damage in 3,000 years." On the screens, Sarah watched the lead Devourer ship stagger under the bombardment. Its biomechanical hull was healing the damage almost as quickly as it occurred. But the sheer volume of fire was overwhelming its regenerative capabilities. Other enemy ships moved to support it, but they had to navigate through the asteroid field where human weapons waited in ambush. A cargo hauler called the Lucky Strike emerged from behind a large asteroid, its hull covered with improvised armor plating and ramming spikes. Captain Singh's voice crackled over the communication system. "This is for every species you've murdered, you bastards." The Lucky Strike slammed into a Devourer ship at full thrust, its antimatter cargo hold detonating on impact. The explosion lit up the asteroid field like a new star, completely destroying both vessels. The remaining Devourer ships recoiled from the blast, their formation breaking apart in confusion. "They don't understand suicide attacks," Keithvar observed with amazement. "The Devourers preserve themselves above all else. They cannot comprehend a species that willingly destroys itself to inflict damage." More human ships were emerging from hiding spots throughout the asteroid field. Each one was unique, modified with whatever weapons their crews could devise. A scientific research vessel fired modified atmospheric processors like torpedoes. A mining ship used its ore extractors to literally tear chunks out of enemy hulls. Even a luxury passenger liner had been converted into a missile platform. The Devourers tried to adapt their tactics, but human unpredictability made conventional responses impossible. Every time they focused on one threat, 3 more appeared from unexpected directions. The enemy ships began taking serious damage as human forces coordinated their attacks with chaotic precision. "Command, this is the research station Europa," came a transmission from the outer system. "We're detecting massive hyperspace signatures. The main enemy fleet is approaching." Sarah's moment of victory evaporated as the sensor displays updated. Hundreds of Devourer ships were emerging from hyperspace throughout the solar system. The advance force had been just a scouting probe. The real invasion was beginning. "Admiral Morrison, to all units," came the voice from Earth Command. "We're seeing enemy forces at Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Earth Defense Fleet is engaging hostiles in orbit. All outer system units are to withdraw toward Earth immediately." "Negative," Sarah replied, surprising everyone on the channel. "We're not withdrawing." "Commander, that's a direct order," Morrison said sharply. "Sir, with respect, we're not military," Sarah answered. "We're civilians who've chosen to fight. And we're staying right here. Around the asteroid field, other civilian commanders echoed her decision. Mining supervisors, research directors, cargo captains, and even criminal bosses refused the withdrawal order. They had turned their little corner of space into a fortress, and they weren't giving it up. Kethvar looked at Sarah with something approaching awe. Your species truly is insane. You're outnumbered 100 to 1, facing an enemy that has conquered 300 civilizations, and you're choosing to stay and fight. That's right, Sarah said, watching the main Devourer fleet approach on the sensors, because someone has to make a stand. Someone has to show the galaxy that the Devourers can be hurt, and if we're going to die anyway, we might as well die making it cost them everything we can. The asteroid field erupted in activity as human defenders prepared for the main assault. Modified ships took up attack positions while improvised weapons platforms powered up for the fight of their lives. Sarah knew they probably wouldn't survive the next few hours, but that didn't matter anymore. What mattered was proving that humans didn't surrender, even against impossible odds. The Devourers were about to learn that some species fought harder when they were cornered. And across the galaxy, other civilizations were watching to see if the newest species in space had what it took to stand against the ancient darkness. The main Devourer fleet hit the asteroid field like a tsunami of metal and death. Hundreds of biomechanical ships swept through space, their hulls rippling with absorbed technologies from countless conquered worlds. Sarah watched the tactical displays as wave after wave of enemy vessels approached, knowing that her small force of converted civilian ships couldn't possibly survive such an assault, but humans had never been particularly concerned with the possible. The battle began with the research Station Titan's contribution. Director Walsh had indeed converted the facility's fusion reactor into a gravity bomb, and he detonated it just as the enemy fleet entered the asteroid field's gravity well. The explosion tore a hole in spacetime itself, creating a miniature black hole that lasted for 17 seconds. 43 Devourer ships vanished into the gravitational anomaly before it collapsed. The remaining enemy forces found their formation scattered and their tactical coordination disrupted. In that moment of confusion, humanity struck with everything they had. All units engage at will, Sarah broadcast. Show them what happens when you threaten Earth. The asteroid field became a maze of destruction as human forces unleashed weapons that no military manual had ever described. Mining platforms fired processed asteroids like bullets. Agricultural colonies used their crop dusters to spread clouds of reactive chemicals that ate through enemy hulls. Even the space pirates contributed, using their smuggling tunnels through asteroid fields to launch surprise attacks from impossible angles. Sarah watched a group of Devourer ships attempt to coordinate their assault on her mining station. The biomechanical vessels were trying to use their superior numbers and firepower to overwhelm the human defenses through conventional tactics. It was exactly the wrong approach. Kethvar, can you access our communication array? Sarah asked. I want to send a message directly to the Devourers. The alien warrior, still weak from his injuries, managed to interface with the station's systems using his biomechanical technology. The channel is open. They will hear you. Sarah activated the transmitter and spoke directly to the enemy fleet. This is Commander Sarah Chen of Earth. You came here expecting to find another easy conquest. Instead, you found humans. We don't surrender, we don't negotiate, and we don't give up. Every ship you lose here is a ship that won't threaten innocent worlds. So come ahead and try to take us. We'll be waiting. The response was immediate and violent. A dozen Devourer ships converged on the mining station, their weapons blazing with concentrated fury. But Sarah had anticipated this reaction. The station's defensive systems, modified from industrial equipment, created overlapping fields of destruction that forced the enemy ships into predictable attack patterns. As the Devourers closed in, Sarah triggered her final surprise. The mining station's central core contained industrial-grade antimatter used for asteroid processing. Instead of trying to escape, Sarah had converted the entire facility into a massive bomb. All human ships, clear the area immediately, she broadcast. We're taking as many of them with us as we can. But as Sarah prepared to activate the station's self-destruct sequence, something extraordinary happened. The tactical displays showed new contacts emerging from hyperspace throughout the system. Ships with designs she didn't recognize were appearing and immediately engaging Devourer forces. Kethvar, who are they? Sarah asked. The alien warrior studied the sensor readings with growing amazement. Those are Viridian patrol ships. And those are Kalaran battlecruisers. And that formation? Those are ships from 12 different species. They've come to help. Across all communication channels, messages began arriving in dozens of different languages. Through universal translators, Sarah heard the voices of civilizations she had never known existed. Human defenders. This is Fleet Commander Zara of the Viridian Republic. We stand with you. Mining Station Delta 7, this is Captain Thren of the Kalaran Navy. No species fights the Devourers alone. Earth Forces, this is Admiral Voss of the Centauri Alliance. Your courage has inspired the galaxy. The battle transformed from a hopeless last stand into something unprecedented in galactic history. For the first time in 10,000 years, multiple species were working together to fight the Devourers. The alien fleets coordinated their attacks with human forces, using the chaos and unpredictability of human tactics to confuse enemy responses while providing heavy firepower support. Sarah watched in amazement as a Devourer command ship found itself caught between a human suicide attack and a Viridian plasma bombardment. The biomechanical vessel's adaptive systems couldn't cope with such wildly different threat types simultaneously. Its hull began to buckle and tear as its defensive algorithms collapsed into confusion. How is this possible? Sarah asked Kethvar. You said no one would help fight the Devourers. No one ever tried what your species attempted, the alien replied. When you rescued me, when you chose to warn the galaxy instead of hiding, when you refused to surrender even against impossible odds, you proved that courage still exists. Other species have been watching and waiting for someone to stand up to the Devourers. You gave them hope. The combined fleet pressed their attack with ruthless efficiency. Human unpredictability created openings that alien precision could exploit. Devourer ships that had seemed invincible for millennia found themselves outflanked, outgunned, and outfought by species working together for the first time in galactic history. As the battle raged, Sarah realized that her simple decision to rescue an injured alien had changed everything. The galaxy had been waiting for someone to prove that the Devourers could be defeated. Humanity's desperate resistance had become the spark that ignited a rebellion spanning hundreds of worlds. The Devourer fleet, faced with coordinated resistance for the first time in their existence, began to retreat. Their biomechanical ships limped away from the asteroid field, leaving behind wreckage from dozens of their vessels. The ancient enemy that had terrorized the galaxy for 10,000 years had been defeated by a coalition they had never imagined possible. Sarah looked at Kethvar, who was smiling despite his injuries. What happens now? Now, the alien warrior said, the galaxy learns that humans don't just rescue strangers. They inspire others to be better than they thought possible. The Devourers will return, but they'll face a united galaxy instead of scattered victims. And that changes everything. Sarah nodded, watching the combined fleet organize itself in space. Her rescue of one injured alien had become the foundation of the greatest alliance in galactic history. Humanity had proven that courage was contagious, and that sometimes the smallest acts of compassion could reshape the universe itself. The Devourers had learned a hard lesson. Never underestimate a species brave enough to risk everything for a stranger.